The unexpected hanging paradox is a famous thought experiment that explores the nature of surprise, prediction, and logic. The prisoner is sentenced to be hanged within a week, but he is told the hanging will be a surprise. The prisoner then reasons that he can't be surprised by the hanging using the following proof: if he's not hanged by Thursday, then Friday is the only day left, and thus it won't be a surprise. Knowing this, if he's not hanged by Wednesday, he reasons that Thursday is now the last possible day, so it won't be a surprise either. He continues this logic, eliminating all the days of the week, concluding that he cannot be surprised. However, the prisoner's argument is flawed because it only considers entire days, while the hanging could happen at any specific moment within each day. Although the prisoner's argument can technically account for each fraction of a second, the real issue is the prisoner's inability to experience time at such granularity. To accurately eliminate every possibility, the prisoner would need to be aware of and account for time down to the smallest segments, such as milliseconds. Given the vast number of milliseconds within each day, the prisoner cannot accurately eliminate each possible moment of the hanging on a personal experiential level, which leaves room for surprise. On the other hand, the hangman must determine when to carry out the sentence, and we present an argument that there is no foregone conclusion that the hangman can accomplish this task. Defining surprise can be complex, as individual reactions to unexpected events can vary significantly. One way to approach the concept of surprise is to consider it in terms of conditional probability. We could define the degree of surprise as the probability of the hanging occurring, event A, given the available information, event B, and the prisoner's emotional state, event C. Surprise equals probability of A, given B and C. Under this definition, we would seek a probability under a threshold, T. However, it is reasonable to assume that the prisoner's emotional state will be heightened and relatively constant over the 5-day period due to the stress and uncertainty of the impending execution. Given this assumption, we can simplify our definition of surprise by introducing a constant K, which represents the prisoner's sensitivity to surprise, as a scaling factor. This allows us to represent the degree of surprise as surprise equals K times the probability of A, given B. I state this to prove that it is possible to define surprise. However, surprise is subjective. It will be difficult for the hangman to identify probability of A, given B and K. If the hangman is attempting to surprise the prisoner by choosing a moment when the probability of the hanging is below a certain threshold, he must take into account the prisoner's mental state and adjust his strategy accordingly. However, given the complexity and variability of human psychology, it is impossible for the hangman to accurately predict the prisoner's state at any given moment. This means that even if the probability of the hanging is below the threshold, the prisoner may still not be surprised if his current state and preconceptions are not in line with what the hangman has predicted. Moreover, even if the hangman is able to accurately predict the prisoner's mental state and choose a moment when the probability of the hanging is below the threshold, the prisoner may still not be surprised if he has trained himself to expect the unexpected or if he is simply not susceptible to surprise. Therefore, the hangman's task of surprising the prisoner is fraught with difficulty and uncertainty, and cannot be guaranteed even if the probability of the hanging is carefully managed. Consider this just to throw in a complication. Some people may be able to train themselves to not be surprised in certain situations. I know my wife trained herself as a girl to not be ticklish. On the other hand, the hangman may deliberately begin the hanging when he is most expected, and this would be perceived as surprising to the less imaginative prisoners who would assume that the hangman must obey the judge. So, we conclude that the unexpected hanging paradox may not be a true paradox when considered in reality, but rather an exploration of human perception, surprise, and predictability. By examining the limitations of the prisoner's reasoning, the strategies of the hangman, and the concept of surprise, we have uncovered some interesting insights. However, the paradox leaves room for interpretation, and the question of whether or not a prisoner can be truly surprised remains open-ended.